everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of The Doctor Will See You Now. You're very welcome in the consultation room with us today. And if you're not subscribing, why not subscribe? And then you'll know when our latest recordings are up there on the YouTube, the Newcastle Noir YouTube channel. Today's delight is one of those moments where you learn that somebody's dream has finally come true. And let's face it, the times that we're living in, to know that dreams do still come true is rather special. So it gives me immense pleasure to welcome into the consultation room Ann Bloxwich. Ann, welcome. How are you doing there?
Hello, and thank you for inviting me.
It
It's probably going to be one of the nicest doctor's consults I've ever had.
I really hope so. I am, yeah. I'm sure it won't be maybe as painful as knowing the way that, you know. But Anne, just that idea of the fact that we are talking today says to me, it is that, isn't it? That you have had a dream come true.
Absolutely, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Despite having my children, I should mention, hastily in case they're listening.
Yeah. So, tell us about why we are here to celebrate. What is this moment?
Well, my first book called What Goes Around came out on the 12th of July as an ebook, which felt very surreal at the time because obviously an ebook you don't hold in your hands, so it's very strange. But there are hardbacks coming at the end of November, so if you want a Christmas present, you want it dedicated, let me know.
Wonderful.
Quite happy to do so. The signing part, I'm so excited about that. I'm just it sounds really silly, I know, but you know, it's the little things that make it extra special. I mean, I started writing just before I went to my first Harrogate, which was 12 years ago now, and didn't know about it. My daughter found it and she went, "We need to go to this." So off we went, and we were like a couple of complete fangirls. We spotted Val McDermid and we had jelly legs. We were just, there's this huge icon of the writing world, and she's standing 3 feet away, and I didn't know whether to sort of curtsy to her or kiss her feet, or she's just such a wonderful person. And then I found out that there were a lot of people there that we admired, and we would just walk around going, "Oh, look at them, oh my god, it's them, quick photo." And I spent about £250 on books that weekend because I need to buy that. It was, I reined myself in after that. I was a bit more careful the following year.
Yes, wise. But I think you know that observation that you've made, the fact that to be able to go to festivals and and that amazing wonderment that is Harrogate, and
yes. Then very different to the usual pop concerts where you're kept well away from the celebrity, from the superstar.
Yeah,
from your idol, and here you can stand next to them in the bar and drink beer with them. You think this isn't real. I'm going to be dreaming this, because it's just it's fantastically surreal.
And yet it is real. And that idea of having seen those books 12 years ago, and here we are now, 12 years on, and you too now are part of that world.
I know.
And I'm going to ask you a little bit later on about your experiences at another awesome crime fiction festival, Bloody Scotland, this year. But let's first of all go back. A little bit of Sound of Music. Let's start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. You have been to Harrogate. You have been inspired by what you hear. And here we are today celebrating What Goes Around.
Yes.
So tell me about the journey of What Goes Around. How did it begin? What was its origins? When did you begin to, shall we say, write in earnest?
It was probably not long. It was probably just after the first Harrogate, as soon as I got back. The origin of the story of What Goes Around, which obviously is to do with male strippers, came before Harrogate, back in 16 years ago, long time ago, when a friend of mine pointed out a chap at the school gates, and she said, "You know who that is?" And I was like, "No." And she told me his name. I went, "Who's he?" And she said, "He's a male stripper. He's really famous." And I went, "He's a scruffy erg." That was exactly what. And she said, "Well, obviously he doesn't." So a couple of weeks later, she went, "He's performing at the club. Do you want to go and see?" And I thought, I'd never seen a male stripper in my life. Really wasn't interested, but thought, well, go on then. And I was very surprised at how different he looked for a start. This was before he took his clothes off, obviously. But I was more mesmerized by the drag queen. I was just blown away. See, growing up with people like Danny LaRue and stuff when I lived with my grandparents and so on. And I remember crying my eyes out when my granddad told me it was really a man because I didn't believe him at all. But and I just thought the craft that they put into the show, and obviously then the stripper came on and we'd all had a few drinks by then. So and it was and I remember speaking to him afterwards and saying, "Oh, I had a photograph taken with him," and I said, "Oh, your son's in my son's class." And he said, "Oh, who's your son?" So I told him and never thought any more about it. And then a month later, I thought I turned 40 and I thought, I'm going to book him for my birthday. And I booked the same drag queen as well. And he walked into the room and looked around and went, "I know everyone." I went, "We're all parents at the school, so we all know you." And he said it was the hardest show he'd ever done in his life. But from that, he said to me, he said, "Oh, would you like to do some promoting for me? If you find me a room, I've got a 4-piece group and we're looking for venues." So I thought, "Oh, okay, I know a couple of places." And it started from there. And then a few years down the line, I was chatting backstage with one of the guys and I said, "I ought to write a book about you lot," because he said, "If you ever did that, you'd make big money." He said, "Because the stuff you see, you couldn't make it up." And that's basically where the idea for that story came from, that particular storyline. And I should say at this point that Ray is not one real person. He's lots of bits of other people I've seen, but I've condensed them down into one really unpleasant man. I don't think any of us have ever met anyone as nasty as Ray.
As nasty as Ray, no.
Oh, he's vile.
It made me think of, there's those childhood pantomimes where where the baddie comes on you and as you read and you just want to go, "Smooth."
Exactly.
It really evokes that
exactly
that feel. Okay, so there's the idea that begins swirling around.
Yes. But obviously, I'd helped out at lots of. I tended to help out backstage because he took me along to all of the shows, and I was running back and forwards, fetching drinks. And then after I got over the shock of seeing all these men walk around with no clothes on, which was at first it was like, "Oh," and then you got to the point where you didn't notice them. On more than one occasion, I've had to separate 2 stark naked 6-foot men because they're arguing over baby oil, and that's when your mum head switches on. I mean, I'm 4'10", I'm not very big. And I remember standing between 2 of them one night and I said, "I'm going to bang your heads together if you don't stop it now. Bugger off and get ready." And they both went, "Yes, Anne." And I thought, it's like dealing with 6-foot toddlers. They were all, but that's, if you treat them like that, you don't notice the rest. But that's where Michelle in the story came from, because a lot of Michelle was me. I was the one doing the running around and the packing up the clothes and washing the clothes and making sure they got everything they needed. So that's where she came from. She was loosely based on some of the things I did.
And it's really interesting that you say this, because the book itself, when you read the book, you can tell it's a labor of love in so many, in so many aspects. but again, going back to that setting, and it's not often in crime fiction, that we get this kind of setting. So I'd like to know now, sort of like, where was the moment where? So you've been at Harrogate, you've got this background, but this book, where does it actually start to get on the page, and where do you start to wrangle with these ideas?
Well, I went back from Harrogate, and my daughter said, "You can write a book, Mum. You should do it." And one of the guys has said you should write about them. Maybe you should have a murder mystery set around that. And I thought, that's quite a clever idea, because obviously I love crime books. So I thought, okay, what if someone died? Because many a night I'd separated women fighting outside. Or they're trying to climb into the car with the strippers, and I'd have to be, 4'10" bodyguard. It's hilarious. But so I thought, well, okay, what if someone died? And I mean, a lot of the guys do take their girlfriends backstage, or they have someone meet them backstage later. Not all of them. A lot of them are funnily enough, respectably married men or with partners, and they're really solid guys. But there was always the one that would try it on. and then it will cause a fight between a woman and his friend because he preferred his friend. So it came from there. I thought, well, what if someone did die? How on earth would you police that? Because obviously so many people, and I mean, no stripper is going to stand up and say, yes, it was me who was seeing that woman when his wife's sitting in the audience.
Totally. So
I wanted to sort of tell that the backstage story isn't necessarily what you see on the stage. It's like a duck. You don't see what's going on under the water.
Under the water, yeah, or the idea of the tapestry and all the knots, and all the joins.
Yes.
And yeah, again, you know, that you bring us that fascinating insight into a world that maybe for many of us we've either only ever seen from one side, or it may be a world that is totally, you know, unknown to us. And again, you know, I think that is the beauty of the crime, of the crime fiction genre, that it, you know, it can be told from so many different points of view. Crimes can be committed in so many different places.
Well, they can be committed anywhere, really, can't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Take a normal shopping. You know, you could be shopping at the supermarket and see someone dead, and then you could, you know, if there's a body or a crime, then you can make it a crime book.
Yes.
You have to excuse my cat. She likes to sit on my keyboard.
I think that's lovely. The last author that we spoke with, we had a cat's arrival, and I think this might be becoming part of the series. I think it might be a prerequisite that any author that appears on The Doctor Will See You Now has to have a cat so that it can make an appearance.
Absolutely.
But I would say that what you've written is a police procedural, because at the heart of this novel, we have D.I. Alex Peachy.
Yeah.
And at what point did he become, you know, a character that was going to be part of this novel?
Well, I always knew if it was going to have a murder, it needed a policeman. And having read hundreds of books, I didn't want to copy anyone else's formula. And I thought, you don't see many happily married policemen. You know, a lot of them are single, a lot of them have got marriage troubles. And I thought, well, so I based him on my home life. I sort of swapped him out for my husband originally, which is why Alex is a role player, because mine does all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, not the dressing up and waving swords, the stuff on paper with 20-sided dice and so on. And he did that for many years. And his friends were very kind enough to let me have their names for in the book, so they went in the book. But and I'll talk about that a bit later on about the forming the characters. But with Alex, I kind of based him on my husband, because every time he stands up from somewhere, his joints will pop, which I don't know if that's just a tall person thing. And quite often, if I'm cooking, he'll come and stand out behind me and rest his chin on my head. So it sort of came from that dynamic that we have. And I thought I wanted him to be quite laid back, but get to the point where he will lose his temper. He will get frustrated and angry. He does have the same sorts of problems with us, and he has similar music tastes to me. So it's a little bit autobiographical, and he's a little bit people I know thrown together. But the name actually came to me. I woke up with the name and I thought, where did that come? Alex Peachy, where's that come from? And I went to school with a guy called David Peachy, who became Dave in the book. And his personality is very like the real Dave. And of course he's married to a Carol, so she's very different. But I messaged him and said, do you mind if I call my character this? And he went, no, that's fine. And I said, oh, we'll put you in the book. And I said, but I'm going to need some history because I haven't really seen you since school. So he is a master builder. He was in the army, so bits of that went in, but it fleshed him out nicely. You know, and it just came from there, really. And the relationship they have as brothers, you know, is what you'd see with a lot of siblings. You know, I mean, my brother will grab me around the neck and sort of do the donut thing and call me a knob, and so men never grow out of that. They just, you know, they just tend to be, they don't mature past the age of 5 in the nicest possible way sometimes.
Of course. And I tell you what I found about reading through and Alex, to me, and this might sound a little bit weird, but go with me on this.
Okay.
That he reminds me of that central supporting beam that you get in like old farmhouses or old cottages. That, you know, he is so I don't know, he's so dependable and so important.
Yeah. It would be quite easy to take him for granted, because
yes,
you don't notice he's there until he's not.
Exactly.
That, yeah. And then everything falls down.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's, but you know, it's just quietly, he's there, he's doing the work, while all around, you know, you have the noise,
yeah,
elsewhere.
Yes, he's the quiet space, isn't he?
Yeah. Now
often.
you say, and quite rightly so, that you bring us a detective with who is very happily married. I think there's a lot of tenderness there. Yes. You see the support that's there for one another. It's a very heartwarming relationship. However, you do bring I don't want to call it a difficulty, but you bring an aspect to the relationship that has with it then, brings us that tension, and that's with their son Joel.
Yes.
Yeah, could you tell us about Joel and why you decided to put a character like Joel into the novel?
Well, again, it was autobiographical. I have a son with cerebral palsy and Asperger's, and he's 34 now, but everything you see with Joel is pretty much very similar to what's happened between me and him. He's never got to the point where he's broken my nose, and he's never got to the point where he's beaten me up, but there have been times when it's come close. And I wanted to show that a lot of the problems I have with my own son is, if I'd say to someone, oh, he was a nightmare last night, he smashed his room up, or he did that, and they'd look at me and go, oh, but he's in a wheelchair. And that, it was almost like that was an excuse for him to get away with it. And quite often he would play on that. I'd say to him sometimes, if you don't behave yourself, I'm calling the police. And he goes, they won't do anything because I'm disabled. And someone stopped me at Harrogate, and they'd read it. It had only come out that week. And she asked me about it. And she said, can I just say thank you for showing that disabled people can be assholes? And I was, and I went, okay. She went, my auntie has this from my cousin all the time. And the amount of times he's bruised her and battered her, but gets away with it because he's got a disability. She said, and it's not right. And I'm glad you showed the other side of this. Because, my daughter used to say to me, you shouldn't put up with this from him. I said, well, what can I do? If, I'm not saying the police are at fault, because they're not, but if I would call them out, they go, yeah, but he's in a wheelchair. But that doesn't stop him being violent. Or, and my son knows all about what I've put in the book, because I've told him, and he's fine with it. Because he'll see that as a character. He won't see that as his own behavior.
Yeah.
But he'll go, he's really horrible to his mum, but he won't remember that was him, how he was with me. I'd say to him, that's how you were with me. And he went, I'm sorry. And to him, that's it, then it's done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So but Asperger's, they do have that, some of them do have that level of violence, which can be terrifying. It's fine when they're little, but when they're big adults,
as they grow older,
it can be very scary. But very, very, puts a huge strain on the family.
But what I think is so important is giving voice and giving space, to people who get very little space on the pages of fiction, and whose voices are seldom heard. I mean, I know things are improving from what they were, but still, I think it's vital, that we hear and see.
I just wanted people in my position with a child at home like that to know that I see them, that I know they're there, and I know that they do struggle. And exactly like Jane, for a long time I said, I'm not having social services involved. He's my son. He's my problem. I'll deal with him. And when I was married to his dad, he'd say to him, we need to do something about it. I said, no, I'm not having any, no one's taking, he's mine, and I'll fix it. But you know deep down you can't fix it, but to involve someone else makes you look weak, even though you're not. I suppose you don't want people to think, oh, well, she's passed him off to social services, she obviously didn't care about him, which is really silly, but it's quite often what
and again, how many people, Anne, are gonna pick up the novel and see themselves in there.
I think they'll identify with it and think, someone knows how I feel. And it's so important, because obviously when Care in the Community came in and they closed a lot of the daycare centres and stuff, suddenly people were moving back in with their parents who hadn't had to look after them for a long time. You know, and it's a shock to the system, and a lot of places aren't equipped for that. I mean, I'm lucky where I live now that, you know, Dumfries and Galloway is great. You know, there are just the things for disabled people everywhere, but quite often you'll go somewhere and there are steps, and you think, well, you'll have to carry his wheelchair up, and it shouldn't be a problem, but I suppose that's just the way things are. But I wanted disabled parents to see that they're not alone.
Excellent. So important.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. Now, I'm going to ask you, because I think this might have been a challenge, but I'm not sure. But the book does carry with it certain content, as we've said, you know,
yes.
So male strippers, and also some colourful language in parts. And I'm intrigued to know whether, as you were putting together the book, were you concerned that you might lose readers who would feel that they couldn't engage with the book?
Yeah. I mean, for anyone who hasn't read the book, I used the C word once, but the person who uses it is, again, based on someone I know, and she would use it every other word. That's just part of her vernacular. She's quite a hard-edged character, so she does swear a lot. And I know a lot of women do swear a lot, and well, a lot of people in general swear a lot, but I didn't want it to be F-bombs and things all the way through. I've only tried to use it where I thought saying, oh goodness me, wouldn't work. You know, you'd have to, and to be honest, the phrase she uses, the C word in, wouldn't work. The context wouldn't work, because the whole point is, you know, yes, I think he's this because, although I'd call him this, but he lacks the breadth and depth and warmth, which of course, you know.
Indeed. But I think it's.
But I can assure people it's only in there once.
Yeah,
I probably won't use it through any other books.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting, again, you know, the consideration that an author goes through within, you know, with the development of a character. You know, you've said, you know, the character who uses this language. Well, you know, actually, in real life, you know, I know someone who uses, you know, that language much more. But I am, you know, but I am aware, and so I'm going to do that. You know, that reining back in.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, she does get told off by a friend for saying it.
Yeah,
she does get admonished, but that's just because she's so angry about how she feels about Ray. That's why it comes out.
That's why it comes out. Yeah. And you bring me really nicely to my next point, which, you know, the context in which that happens. You know, the first outing that we have to the place. You know, where they are being entertained by these male strippers, Vicky, Laura, and Helen. Within that chapter, you just get a great sense of female solidarity.
Yes.
You know, the idea of female friends being able to tell each other, you know, hey, what's going on, or, you know, or I'm there for you, or, you know, even though you may have, you know, been sick on my coat, you know, it's fine. You know, we're still really good mates. And I just wondered, for you as an author, how important is female solidarity?
Oh, it's crucial. I think it's crucial. No matter what gender you are, you tend to find in any group of friends, same-sex friends, you've always got the strong, dependable one. You've got the one that's a bit away with the fairies. You've got the one that will always pay for everything at the end of the night. You've got the other one who's first out of the taxi, last to the bar. And you know, you've got that mix, and then you've always got the one that doesn't know where she fits in, but she's just so grateful to be included. So you quite often got this motley crew of people together, but who don't necessarily work well apart, but to put them together and they're a well-oiled machine. So, but the three girls, apart from one of them getting murdered, that actually came about a ladies' night I attended. I went to a thing like that, and I walked home with my friends, and one of them, she squatted and had a pee in someone's front garden, and then she flashed her bum at motorists going by, and then she was indeed sick on my coat on the way back. But so these are all bits and pieces I've pulled from different characters, to form them into these, condense them down into these three women.
But I love, as well as we're talking, what is clearly coming through is, you know, they often say it in writing groups. If you look online for pointers for writing, write what you know.
Yes, and that's what I did.
Yeah, and you've clearly done that. And I think, again, what I find intriguing is the way that you have condensed, a life's experience, a series of friends, relatives, and that it become this microcosm of a world.
Yes.
And again, I wonder, the process that you went through in order to be able to say the end.
Yes.
Tying all those parts together. Did you lose sleepless, did you lose nights of sleep over getting this all in place?
I think I did, because I'm a total pantser. I don't write in sequence. I can't plot. I haven't tried. Well, I've tried plotting occasionally. I can always come up with the first paragraph quite easily. I'll be, what if this would happen? And I'll write that down, and it'll go somewhere on the computer and sit there. And then I'll think, well, I want the end of the book to be this, or I want the bad person, the killer or whoever, to be this. And then I think the first chapter I actually wrote with what goes around was the scene where Alex is interviewing the drag queen when she takes her makeup off. That was the very first chapter I wrote, and obviously it's been tweaked slightly since then. But the drag queen I went to see that first night does a D-drag on stage at the end of most shows. And when I got to know him as a person, I said to him, that's my favorite part. And he said, I'll make sure I do that at everyone you come to. And it's just beautiful to watch this glamorous woman become this humble man. And it was just, it's fantastic to watch. It really is. And it always makes me cry when he does it, because he just stands there and he goes, I'm sorry, but this is just me. And it's just lovely to,
yeah, that transformation.
As the layers of makeup come off, the real person comes through. And I suppose it's a lot of drag queens have said, well, when we've got all our makeup on, and one of the strippers said it to me once, I said, how do you go out there and do that? He said, that's why I wear mirrored sunglasses, because then they can't see me. I thought, that's quite interesting. He said, if they can't see my eyes, they can't see me. And I thought, that's really quite deep.
Yeah.
And he said, I couldn't do this without my sunglasses on. He said, that's why they stay on until the very end, because otherwise it's just me.
Yeah, that I don't know, that armor.
Yes.
That's there. And it made me think again about, these are very, very clear, evident masks, if you will,
yes,
or armor, as we've talked about, but how, in other aspects, that people, characters have their armor, their masks. They're just not so evident.
Yeah, I mean, we all have that friend who doesn't go out without their lipstick on in the morning, or they won't go out the house unless they've got their handbag the same color as their shoes, or with guys it can be like the handkerchief and the they all have that. It's almost like a little ritual, but it's almost like, well, once I've got that, I'm okay. I'm safe.
The feeling safe.
It's a comfort blanket, there. I suppose.
Yeah,
a security blanket. Even if it is a bit of lipstick, or I can't go out without a hat or gloves. It's
exactly.
It's what makes us who we are. I mean, very few of us go out there stripped bare, figuratively. We all have that thing we have with us that we can't face the world without.
Definitely. Now, allow me, if you will, because I'd like to talk a little bit about D.I. Alex Peachy within the professional setting.
Yes.
So with D.S. Redwood, who is he as a cop, and what's the team like that he works with?
Well, I didn't want to have the traditional pairing of one and the other, which is why I had a team. So any two can go out together, it doesn't matter who. And I know technically a DI should sit and do paperwork, but it's good enough for Morse, it's good enough for me.
Totally.
It works for Rebus. So I wanted him to be able to, he's very approachable. So although he's a boss, they respect him. So he's also a friend. So he can socialize with them, whether it be the guys role playing or, waiting to pick up the wives afterwards, or whether it's, someone's got a problem. Like with Mo, and I think I do touch on the fact that when Mo came from Vice, she'd had quite a lot of homophobia thrown at her. But whereas to Alex, he says, well, you're just part of the team. He said, it doesn't faze him at all. I mean, I've deliberately not actually made anyone black, white, or Asian, because I thought that's up to the reader to make their mind up. And I didn't want to do that. I think I think I do mention Dawn's got a Sri Lankan father, but that's because my father's from Sri Lanka. So I wanted to put that touch in there for him. And she's actually named after a tree I spotted in Edinburgh Zoo. Before the book was finished, I was walking around Edinburgh Zoo and I thought, oh, this tree is called a Dawn Redwood. I thought, oh, that'd make a great name for a cop. And that's just where it came from. So...
It's of inspiration,
yes,
coming from just the simplest moments in life. Yep.
Maureen Ross is she's a 30-something cop in my book and a lesbian, but she's actually my 75-year-old straight auntie.
Well, wait a minute. let's just unpack
rewind a bit.
Yeah. Tell us about this.
Well, my auntie Mo was quite prominent in my early childhood. She's my mum's big sister, and so yeah, Maureen Ross. I think she's 77 now. But I always said to her, when I started writing the book, because I'm going to put you in as a character. She said, "Oh, do whatever. I don't mind." She's very matriarchal, and she said, "That's fine." So when I said to her, I went to see her after this Harrogate, and I said, "Oh, you went in. I'll put you in the book, but you're a 30-something lesbian." And she thought it was hilarious. She went, "Well, I'm never too old to try something new."
Good woman.
She's wonderful. Yeah. She really is.
Yeah.
But I said, I've described her very similar to Auntie Mo's daughter, actually. She's a similar build and whatever. I've no idea if my cousin Janice is gay. It doesn't bother me if she is, but I just wanted to have her name in there, so she's immortalized, because she means such a lot to me.
And again, I'll come back to this, that I think it is a book, what comes around, it's a book that you feel, this is not something that is far removed. This is not something that's written in a rarefied world.
No.
This is happening. These lives are lives that we could easily come across.
Yes.
These situations, well, not some of the grimmer situations, hopefully we don't have come across, but sadly we know that these things do happen. But it's like, you write, your writing is very real, shall we say, even though it's fiction. It's very real.
Yes, well, that's one of the things. I'm a great fan of IMDb, and I don't think we ever get through a program at all without stopping to find out where this actor's been before, and where we know them from. So with the book, when I was writing it, I write it very much as if I'm watching it on the TV. So when I'm writing a scene, I think, right, so how would he walk across that room? And I'll take another cop, for instance, Les Morris. Les Morris is a real person, and I have his full permission to put him in the book. He was delighted to be made much younger than he is. But everything you read pretty much about Les is true. He is, he does have sons who play cricket. He has got a wife called Ruth, and he did have a vomiting dog. That was a story he told me about. He said, "Oh, bloody hell!" He said it was coming out of both. And I said, "Can I put that in the book?" He went, "Yeah, do what you like." But so when I write Les, I know how Les looks. I know how he reacts. I know his sense of humor. So he was a joy to write. And to be fair, a few other people have used him and killed him off in their books. They always kill poor Les off, so I promised him I would never do that.
Yeah, you shall remain intact.
I may kill other characters off down the line, but Les will not.
He will not be killed off. Yes. No. So, before we, sort of like move on to other aspects of being an author, I'm going to ask you to do something that might be a little bit tricky, but I wonder if you can.
As long as you don't want me to sing, because I can't do that.
No, not on this one. You're fine. No. Yeah, but I wonder if you could tell us about the premise, the crime. And again, it's really tricky without giving anything away. But I wonder if you could talk to us about the crime that we will find in this book.
Yeah. In what sort of way do you mean? I mean, why did I decide to do it in that? Why did I decide on that particular method?
Yeah.
I think it was because it's not planned. So it was a case of using whatever came to hand. And it's quite, you can tell it's quite frenzied and spur of the moment. I don't quite know, actually. I mean, obviously it was a poisoning. You do that over many months, but it was one of those things. It was a case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
I love that, though. Being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, it's behind all that is your calculations.
Right. I don't know where that came from, actually. I think it was just, if I was going to commit a crime in that way, what would be the best way to do it? So that's, in the dark, obviously, with, again, whatever came to hand, and then make a quick exit. But obviously, like you said, we can't really talk about it much without giving things away. Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, because again, I wonder how it came to you. The idea of, well, there's lots of methods, there's lots of possibilities.
I think it was just the killer used what was to hand.
Yeah.
Rather than take something with them.
And it's interesting that we're having this conversation, because last night I watched one of those American true crime programs where the instrument to hand was a packing gun.
Yes.
Yeah. That it's that again, the idea of calculation or not calculation, spur of the moment, crime of passion. What is it that is behind that? Okay. Now, so published author.
I still can't get my head around that. It's absolutely fireworks go off in my head every time I hear it.
It's true. Ann Bloxwich, published author.
I remember the week after I signed my contract and sent it back, and I think I got up late on a Saturday morning, and I said to my husband, I said, "Have you changed the cat litter?" And he went, "No." I went, and I was scooping it. I was going, "Bet bloody Van Deb doesn't have to do this shit." it was just, and he went, "Oh, it's like that, is it?" And I went, and so it's become a thing now. I'll say to him, "Are you cooking the dinner?" And he'll go, "No, you can cook tonight." And he'll go, "So who wouldn't do this crap tonight?" And I went, "Well, it wouldn't be Ian Rankin wouldn't do this." So it's become a joke now. It's it probably stems back from years ago, the Fast Show, when Matt Lucas used to imitate Barbara Cartland and lie on the sofa and eat chocolates while someone else wrote the book. So it just became it's almost like, I'm not going to write the book, that's what you're there for. So it just became a bit of a joke, really, from there.
In September this year, so you went to bloody Scotland.
I did.
Yeah, and now you're there with those people that those idols, many of them. But you're part of that now. So just talk to us a little bit about your experience there this year. What were you doing and how did it feel?
Well, Bob McDevitt wrote to me and asked if I wanted to do Crime in the Spotlight, which after I'd finished shrieking and running around the house, I replied, yes, I'd be delighted to do that. And I'm coming to bloody Scotland anyway, as I do every year. And I'd be delighted to do it. And then, but it was, I must admit, I did tear up a bit when I was standing on the back of the stage waiting to go on. I think it was Lynn Anderson's fault, because she gave me a hug. She went, "I'm so proud of you." And I just filled up, because it meant the world to me. This, even people that you admire so much will treat you like ordinary people and will treat you like a friend. And it's, to me, it's still, you still get that fangirl thing. So they're never going to notice me. And they come up to you and go, "Oh, how are you doing? Well done on your book." And it just blows you away. It really does.
Yeah. I thank you. Thanks, Anne, for being, here with us and sharing your story in this. Because I think, for many people, on the outside,
yes,
and thinking, "Oh God, it's never going to be possible. That won't be me." And yet I think, your testimony here says, but you never know.
That's right.
You never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
And one valuable piece of advice I give someone is the story of rejections comes up a lot. People get so bereft about it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the way I looked at it was, right, I want someone to take on my book. So I thought, right, use a bit of reverse psychology because it helps to save your ego. I thought, right, I need to interview someone who I think is worthy of my book. So you look upon it as if you're a bit like Dragon's Den, you want them to take your book.
Yes.
So if they come and say, "Actually, we don't want it," you think, "Okay, fine, you were the wrong person."
Yeah.
So if you get your mindset around it that way, then you don't get the letter and go, "Oh, I'm so you just think, fair enough, they were the wrong candidate, let's look at others." And it does help, because you can get completely crushed. The first couple I got, and I thought, "Oh, I'm really bereft now." Then I thought, well, actually, if we had worked together, would you have necessarily been the right person?
Yeah.
So I think that was probably the most useful thing I learned.
It's a bit like romance, isn't it? As we're growing up, those rejections of, why don't you want me? What's wrong with me? And actually,
you have to kiss a lot of frogs first.
Yeah, and thinking actually, if this, if this had become something, maybe it would have just been, not the thing. I really like that approach, Anne, of, turning it round.
It's the same with 1-star interviews. Mark Billingham and Chris Brookmeyer have done wonders for that, because they've now made it a thing. So, for someone if someone gets a 1-star review, they should think, I've made it as an author because I've got a 1-star review, rather than think, oh, I've got a terrible one. Eva Dolan gave me the best piece of advice. You get a 1-star review, you just go, thank you very much, but you've already spent the money, so I don't care.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious.
But she's right. Book. That's
you
great.
bought my book. I don't care what you thought of it. You bought it. I've got your money.
Yeah. And I think that raises as well the idea of, what an author writes.
Yes.
Isn't necessarily. I think it's impossible for anybody, even the greatest of the greats.
Not everyone is going to love your book. That's the thing.
No.
It's like shoes. Some people are going to love this style of shoes. Some people are going to love that.
Yeah.
Again, football teams or bands. Not everyone likes the same thing. We'd be very boring if we did.
Exactly. Now, I'm aware of the time, but I have a really important question to ask you, because, so as we've said, what goes around at present is out in ebook.
Yes.
And at the end of November, we can expect it's hardback copies.
Hardbacks. I know there are trade copies coming as well, but I'm not sure when.
Hardbacks next. Excellent.
So get your Christmas orders in.
Exactly, but and no pressure, because it says that this is book 1 in the Alex Peachy series. So, is there a book 2?
Oh yes, book 2 is going to be delivered to my agent or my publisher by the 1st of December. So I've been away staying at a friend's house. There's a group of us get together at her house and have a writing retreat, so we can all concentrate without any family issues. And I came back from there this morning, so it's almost done. I just need to sort it into the right order, because it's like jigsaw pieces at the moment. I've got chapters everywhere, and I just need to take them apart, rearrange them, sort out that the time, because I've got a dual timeline in this one.
Okay.
It's quite a bit darker, but I've tried not to touch on the dark stuff. But again, a lot of it is personal experience, so I wanted to explore that kind of thing. So do you want to know what it's about?
I would love to. I mean, again, I don't know how much you can divulge, but
I haven't written a proper blurb for it. But the basic premise is I've got a group of women who go to a survivors group. They've all been victims of child abuse when they were younger. And again, I went to a group the same as this because I was abused as a child. And so these women can talk about anything they want in that group, and it stays within the 4 walls. And then their paedophiles start dying, but there's specific pointers to say that the information's only come out of this room.
That group, yeah.
So is it someone in the group? Is it someone related to? Because the information should have
stayed.
It's kind of a locked room.
It is, yeah.
But it's their paedophiles are dying in ways that are almost like they've got a signature to each person. So Alex is trying to deal with that, plus the aftermath of what happened in book 1. He's still dealing with that as well.
Wow.
I had someone message me and say, what happened here? I said, you have to read book 2 for that. They weren't very happy.
Yeah, because again, towards the end of the book, we do think, how is Alex and his family? How do they move on from what has happened?
Yes.
In that family setting.
Yeah.
And so, thankfully, book 2 will
address that. Yes.
Brilliant.
Any ongoing issues from there.
Yeah.
A new character coming in as well, which I think people will be delighted with. So she was. I was asked to put her in by a member of the Harrogate team, because she said she'd love to be in the book. So we discussed a few character ideas, and so she's in the book, and apparently she is absolutely thrilled with it. Wonderful.
And I'm really sorry, but we're going to have to draw the consultation to a close. I know that
we could talk all day, couldn't we?
We could, and I love that. And I am really hoping that for Newcastle Noir 2022, when we're going to go back, COVID permitting, of course, but hopefully by then we're going to go back and have that weekend. I do hope that you'll come and be part of the lineup there.
It would be an absolute honour. It really would.
Because I think it would just, to have you and, DI Alex Peachy there,
Yes.
I think that is vital for our festival lineup. Want to wish you all the very best again with what goes around and what goes beyond that. Yeah, definitely. And hope we get to speak again soon, Anne. Thank you so much for today.
Too. Thank you very much, Jackie. Take care.
You too. Bye for now.
Bye.